someone who carried the strength of her entire lost world inside her tiny heart. And together, they had a chance to survive what came next. The basement slowly grew quiet again, the shaking of the house fading until only the soft sound of Sierra's breathing filled the space. Lena held the tiny alien child in her arms, feeling her warmth fade gently as the bright glow around her body dimmed. Sierra had used so much of her strength, and now she leaned weakly against Lena's chest. Tired and trembling, Lena brushed Sierra's glowing hair softly. "You're okay, I'm here," she whispered, even though her own heart was still racing from fear and shock. She had never imagined a child so small could hold such incredible power inside her. After a few minutes, Lena noticed the glowing crystal still lying on the basement floor. It pulsed lightly, steady and calm. Sierra reached out her tiny hand toward it, but Lena gently picked it up and placed it in Sierra's palm. The light flowed between them, soft and warm, like a heartbeat returning to life. "We should go upstairs," Lena whispered. "The hunters left." "For now," Sierra nodded weakly, and Lena helped her stand. They climbed slowly out of the basement, pushing open the trapdoor carefully. The house was a mess, furniture broken, windows cracked, dust everywhere. But the danger had passed, at least for this moment. Sierra walked to the center of the living room, her small feet leaving faint glowing steps behind. She looked up at the broken roof, her expression heavy, as if she were blaming herself for the damage. Lena knelt beside her and cupped her small hands. "Don't do that," Lena said softly. "None of this is your fault. The hunters came for you. But you didn't choose them to come here. You were just trying to survive." Sierra blinked slowly, her glowing eyes filling with sadness. She pressed her forehead gently against Lena's arm. A silent way of saying thank you. Just then, a soft hum filled the room. But this time it wasn't frightening. It was warm, gentle, like music floating in the air. Sierra's head lifted slowly, her eyes widening with surprise. Lena stood and looked outside through the broken window, her breath caught. A soft blue glow filled the sky, not sharp like the hunter's lights, but smooth and peaceful. A circular ship descended quietly above the forest. Shining like a giant star, it looked nothing like the hunter's dark machines. Its surface was bright silver, smooth and calm, and a warm light radiated from it like sunlight scattered through water. Sierra's body glowed with sudden joy. She reached toward the ship with both hands, tears forming in her eyes, but these tears were soft. Filled with hope, Lena felt something warm inside her chest. "Your people," she whispered. "They found you." The peaceful ship hovered lower until it landed gently on the grass outside. A soft path of light extended from its door to the ground. Welcoming Sierra home, Sierra took a small step forward. But then she stopped and turned back to Lena. Her eyes were filled with conflict. Lena knelt down and held her hands. "It's okay," she said gently. "You need to go home." "They've come for you." Sierra shook her head, stepping closer to Lena. She pressed her small glowing hand against Lena's heart, sharing one last strong wave of emotion, safety, love, trust, connection. Lena felt tears rise in her own eyes. "You changed my life too," Lena whispered, "but you belong with your people, and they will protect you now." Sierra hugged her tightly, wrapping her tiny arms around Lena's neck. Her glow brightened as if her heart was speaking without words. Lena held her gently, not wanting to let go. When Sierra finally stepped back, she reached for Lena's hand one last time and placed the glowing crystal inside her palm. Lena shook her head. "No, that's yours." But Sierra pushed the crystal into Lena's hand again, closing her tiny fingers around it. Her eyes glowed softly, telling Lena that this was a gift, a memory, a bond that would never break. The path of light brightened, calling Sierra home. She walked slowly toward the ship, turning back again and again to look at Lena. Lena smiled through her tears, holding the crystal close to her heart. When Sierra reached the ship, its doors opened silently. A tall, glowing figure stepped forward, lifting Sira gently into their arms. They bowed their head toward Lena in respect and gratitude. The ship slowly lifted into the sky, rising like a second moon. Sira pressed her tiny hand against the window, looking down at Lena until she disappeared into the clouds. Lena stood alone in the broken yard, but her heart felt full, warm, stronger than ever. The crystal glowed softly in her hand, pulsing with Sira's light, far above the sky. Sira whispered one silent message into the universe, a message only Lena could feel in her heart. "You will always be my human," and Lena whispered back with tears in her eyes. "And you will always be my tiny star." Their bond had changed everything, not just their lives, but the fate of two worlds. Lena held the glowing crystal tightly in her hand as she and Sira crawled out from the hollow under the fallen tree. The forest looked calm for a moment, but both of them could feel something heavy in the air, a pressure that made the leaves shake even without wind. Sira stayed close to Lena, her tiny fingers gripping her wrist. Her glowing eyes scanned the trees again and again. Watching for danger, Lena placed her arm around Sira protectively, trying to make her feel safe. "We need to get home," Lena whispered. "We can think better there." They moved quickly, following a narrow hidden path through the forest. Sira's markings glowed faintly, leading the way, but her steps were slower now. She was tired, scared, and the crystal in Lena's hand pulsed like a heartbeat, warning them that the hunters were near. When they finally reached the edge of the forest, Lena's small town came into view. Usually, it was peaceful, children playing outside, cars on the road, warm lights shining from windows. But today something felt wrong. The air was too quiet, too still, as if the entire town was holding its breath. Lena and Sira stepped onto the street, and immediately Sira stopped. Her entire body glowed brighter in fear. She pointed at the sky, and Lena followed her gaze, high above the rooftops. 3 dark shapes hovered silently. They looked like metallic shadows floating without sound. Their underlights shimmered like cold blue fire. Scanning everything below, Lena gasped softly. "They found us." The hunters had reached the town before Lena could move. One of the hovering shapes shot out beams of pale blue light that scanned the ground. When the beam passed over a dog, it barked loudly and ran away in fear. A group of people gathered in confusion, looking up while shielding their eyes. "What is that?" Someone shouted. "Is it a drone?" Another asked, but these were no human machines. Lena knew that now. Suddenly, the light stopped scanning and pointed directly toward the forest where Lena and Sira stood. Sira trembled and hid behind Lena, gripping her clothes tightly. "Come on," Lena whispered. "We need to get inside." She grabbed Sira's hand and ran toward her house. Her feet pounded against the road, her breath fast and shaky. She kept looking over her shoulder to make sure the hunters weren't flying directly at them. The blue searchlight stretched across the street, crawling toward them slowly, like a cold hand reaching for Sira. They reached the house and rushed inside. Lena slammed the door shut and locked it. Even though a simple lock couldn't stop alien hunters, it made her feel better. Sira stood in the middle of the room, shaking as her glowing markings flickered in panic. "It's okay," Lena whispered, kneeling down and holding her shoulders. "I'm here. I won't let them take you." But the humming sound from outside grew louder, stronger, vibrating through the walls. The lights inside the house flickered again. Furniture shook, and small objects fell from shelves. Lena hugged Sira tightly as another blue beam passed over the house. People outside began screaming. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the streets. A car alarm went off somewhere. Lena rushed to the window and saw neighbors outside pointing at the sky in fear. The hunters stopped scanning the whole town and focused all their lights on one point, Lena's house. Sira whimpered softly, pressing her forehead against Lena's arm. Her body glowed brighter, responding to danger. Lena felt fear rising in her chest. But she forced herself to stay calm. She had promised to protect Sira, and she would not break that promise. The humming grew louder until it felt like the house was shaking from the inside. A beam of hard blue light hit the roof, and the entire house trembled as cracks formed along the ceiling. Dust fell like soft rain. Lena held Sira close and moved away from the falling debris. "We need to hide," she whispered urgently. Quickly, she dragged a heavy shelf aside and opened the trapdoor that led to the small storage basement. Sira looked confused but trusted Lena and climbed down first. Lena followed and closed the trapdoor above them. They crouched in the darkness, breathing hard as the house shook again. Someone or something landed on the roof. Heavy footsteps walked slowly across the boards above them. Sira covered her mouth to stop herself from crying. Lena hugged her close, whispering soft calming sounds in her ear. The hunters were searching the house, scanning each room, breaking things, smashing doors, and moving closer to their hiding spot. For a moment, Lena felt their fate tightening around them like a closing net. But then she remembered the crystal in her hand. Glowing softly, pulsing with energy, Sira placed her little hand over Lena's, as if telling her hope was still alive. The attack had begun, but so had their fight to survive. The basement was dark and cold, but Lena held Sira close, trying to calm her shaking body. Above them, the heavy footsteps continued to move slowly across the floorboards, each step sending a tremor through the ceiling. Dust fell like soft snow, and the air grew thicker with fear. Sira hugged Lena tightly, her glowing markings flickering weakly. Lena knew the little alien child was terrified, exhausted, and nearly out of strength. She stroked Sira's hair gently, whispering, "I'm here. I'm not leaving you." Suddenly, something crashed loudly above them. A piece of furniture broke, and the sound of metallic claws scraping across the floor filled the house. The hunters were searching every corner, and they were getting closer to the trapdoor. Lena held Sira even tighter. "Stay quiet," she whispered. Sira nodded, but her eyes glowed brighter with panic. She clutched the glowing crystal tightly in her small hands. The light inside it pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat in distress. Lena felt her own heartbeat race as the footsteps stopped right above their hiding place. Heavy breathing echoed through the wooden boards, and the hunters made a strange clicking sound, as if communicating with each other. Suddenly, the trapdoor rattled. The hunters had found it. Lena gasped quietly, covering Sira with her arms as dust rained down from above. The handle twisted, pulled, and shook hard. It was only a matter of seconds before they broke it open. Sira looked up at Lena with wide, glowing eyes filled with fear and sadness. Lena could feel emotions pouring into her mind. Fear of being taken. Fear of losing Lena. Fear of being alone again in a dark world. "No," Lena whispered. "I won't let them." The trapdoor cracked, and a long metallic arm pushed through. The hunters was opening it with brute force, splintering the wood little by little. Sira let out a soft whimper, her body glowing brighter from fear. The light flowed into the crystal in her hands, and the crystal pulsed like a living heart. Lena didn't understand the full meaning of it, but something inside her told her this power was not just fear, it was potential. Something hidden, something strong, something waiting. The hunters forced the trapdoor halfway open, their cold, glowing eyes peering into the darkness. Lena held Sira tightly, ready to cover her with her own body. But then something unexpected happened. Sira suddenly pushed away from Lena and stood up on trembling legs. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever before, a pure blue light that filled the entire basement. Lena reached out. "Sira, no," but it was too late. Sira lifted the crystal high above her head, and a beam of warm light shot upward, hitting the trapdoor with a powerful force. The hunters jerked backward as the light burst outward like a wave, sending a shock through the entire house. The trapdoor slammed shut again, and the basement shook as the wave of light spread further. Lena covered her eyes as the brightness filled the room. When the light softened, Lena looked up in shock. Sira stood in the middle of the basement, glowing so brightly that she looked like a small star. The air around her shimmered with warm colors, and her markings pulsed in steady waves. Sira turned toward Lena, her expression soft but determined. She raised her little hand and touched Lena's arm gently. A warm shield of energy formed around both of them. Bright but soft, like a bubble made of pure light. Lena gasped, "Sira." "You're protecting us," Sira nodded slowly. Her eyes filled with courage, now instead of fear. She stepped closer and held Lena's hand. The crystal glowed between them, flowing with energy that connected both of their hearts. Above them, the hunters pounded on the trapdoor again. But this time, when their claws hit the wood, the shield around Lena and Sira pushed back with a strong force. Every strike echoed through the house but could not break the barrier. The hunters grew louder, more aggressive. They tried to force their way in. But each attack was met with a wave of energy from Sira's glowing shield. Sira's small body trembled. The energy taking a heavy toll on her, Lena knelt beside her, holding her shoulders. "It's okay, you're doing amazing," she whispered. "But don't push too hard." Sira shook her head gently, pointing at Lena's heart, as if saying, "I have to protect you too." Lena felt tears rise in her eyes. "We protect each other. That's what friends do." The shield glowed brighter, and the hunters outside suddenly began retreating, as if sensing the growing power they could not fight. Their shadows moved backward, leaving the house, the humming sound fading slowly. Sira's legs weakened, and she fell into Lena's arms. Lena hugged her tightly, whispering comforting words as the glow around them dimmed. "You did it," Lena whispered softly. "You saved us both." The danger faded. But Lena knew it wasn't over. Sira's power was real, strong and life-changing. And the hunters would not give up easily. But now, Lena understood something important. Sira was not just someone to protect. She was someone who could fight back. For a moment, Lena felt like everything was safe, like the danger they left behind in the forest was far away. But deep inside, she sensed that something was still wrong. Something kept pulling at her mind. The way Sira had suddenly panicked earlier, the fear she had shown, the feeling that something or someone was searching for her. "Are you hungry?" Lena asked softly. Sira turned toward her, blinking. Not fully understanding, Lena walked to the kitchen and returned with a small bowl of warm soup. Sira sniffed it gently, then took a tiny sip. Her face softened, and she gave a small, shy smile. It was the first smile Lena had seen from her, and it made her heart warm, but that peaceful moment ended quickly. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered. Dimming for a second, Lena froze. Sira dropped the spoon, her entire body glowing brighter as fear spread across her face. She stepped close to Lena, gripping her clothes tightly. "What is it?" Lena whispered, her heart beating fast, before Sira could respond. A deep humming sound filled the air outside. It wasn't a car, or a plane, or anything human. It felt unnatural, vibrating through the ground and walls. Sira covered her ears, shaking. Lena ran to the window and peeked outside. At first, she saw nothing but trees moving in the wind. Then, she noticed strange shadows shifting between them. Tall figures, almost human-shaped but moving too quickly. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning the forest like hunters searching for prey. Lena's breath caught in her throat. "Sira, are they looking for you?" she whispered, afraid of the answer. Sira nodded slowly, tears forming in her glowing eyes. She pointed to her chest, then to the window, then back to Lena. The message was clear. Those figures wanted her, and they were close. Lena quickly grabbed Sira's hand. "We need to hide," she said. Her voice shook. but she stayed strong for the tiny child clinging to her. She led Sira toward the back door, moving quietly, hoping the shadows outside hadn't seen them yet. But as they reached the door, a sudden flash of light burst through the trees. Shining directly at the house, Lena covered Sira's eyes, her own heart pounding in fear. "We have to run," Lena whispered urgently. She opened the back door and stepped into the cold air. The forest behind the house felt darker than before. The humming sound grew louder, closer, echoing through the branches like a warning. Lena pulled Sira close and ran, her footsteps crunching softly on the leaves the moment they entered the forest. Sira tugged on Lena's hand, pointing deeper into the trees. Lena understood immediately. Sira knew a direction, a safer path, or at least a path away from danger. "Okay," Lena whispered. "Lead the way." They moved quickly through the darkness, Sira guiding Lena with surprising speed, even though she was small and tired. Her glowing markings lit a faint path ahead, giving them just enough light to run without falling. Behind them, the shadows spotted movement. Loud voices echoed, speaking in a strange language that sent chills through Lena's body. They were getting closer, faster. The humming sound became sharper, turning into a high-pitched signal that echoed through the trees. Sira suddenly stopped and grabbed Lena's wrist. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever as she pointed to a small hollow space under a fallen tree. It was cramped, dark, and hidden well by roots and branches. "You want us to hide there?" Lena asked breathlessly. Sira nodded and pushed gently. Urging her, they crawled inside, pressing close to each other. Lena wrapped her arms around Sira, feeling her tiny body shaking. She whispered soft, calming words. Even though she knew the child couldn't understand the language, the tone seemed to help a little. Moments later, heavy footsteps approached. The shadows moved slowly, scanning the area. Their glowing eyes passed dangerously close to the hiding spot. One of them paused, turning its head as if sensing movement. Lena held her breath, praying they wouldn't see them. The shadow bent down, examining the ground. Its hand brushed the leaves near their hiding place. Sira buried her face into Lena's chest, trembling. Then, suddenly, a loud signal echoed from deeper in the forest. Calling the hunters away, the shadow turned its head, then stood up and left quickly, the others following close behind. Lena waited until their footsteps disappeared. Only then did she breathe again. She looked at Sira, wiping tears from her glowing cheeks. "It's okay. We're still safe." But both of them knew the truth. The chase had only begun. Lena waited in the dark hollow under the fallen tree, holding Sira close as their breathing slowly calmed. The forest above them was quiet again, but it did not feel safe. Even the soft wind felt like it was carrying warnings they could not understand. When Sira finally lifted her head, her glowing eyes were still wet with tears. She looked so small, so afraid, that Lena's heart ached for her. Lena brushed a few glowing drops from Sira's cheek and gave her a gentle smile. "You're okay now, I'm here," she whispered. Sira stared at her for a long moment, as if studying her face. Then she reached up and touched Lena's forehead with her tiny glowing fingers. A wave of warmth spread through Lena's mind, like a soft light opening a door inside her thoughts. She gasped quietly, not from fear, but from the strange beauty of it. Suddenly, pictures began to appear in her mind. They were not clear like videos, but soft, glowing memories like dreams made of light. She saw Sira in a bright silver place that looked nothing like Earth. A floating city, shining bridges of energy, and tall beings with gentle lights in their hands. They were peaceful, smiling at Sira as she played with other tiny glowing children. Then the images changed. The peaceful scene turned dark. Shadows covered the city, strange ships flew across Sira's home, and loud sounds echoed through the sky. Lena felt Sira's fear so deeply that her chest tightened. More images appeared, Sira running with other children. Adults trying to protect them. A bright explosion in the distance, and finally, a moment where Sira climbed into a small pod-like ship, pushed inside by someone older, maybe her mother, whose glowing eyes looked full of love and sadness. The pod shot into space, and Sira cried, pressing her tiny hands against the glass as she watched her home fade away. Lena felt the pain inside her heart like it was her own. Then the pod crashed through Earth's atmosphere, tumbling wildly until it fell somewhere in the forest. Sira crawled out, alone, scared, calling for help, hoping someone, anyone, would hear her. The images faded, and Lena found herself breathing hard. Stunned by everything she saw, she finally understood. Sira wasn't just lost. She was running for her life. Sira looked at her with worried eyes, afraid of how Lena might react after seeing the truth. Lena reached forward and hugged her tightly. "You poor thing," she whispered. "You didn't deserve any of that." Sira clung to her, burying her face in Lena's shoulder, her glowing markings pulsing softly like a fragile heartbeat. Lena pulled back slightly, wiping Sira's tears. Those hunters," she said slowly. "They're the ones who attacked your home, aren't they?" Sira nodded, trembling. She raised her hand and formed a tiny shape in the air using light, a tall, dark figure with glowing eyes. The very same type that had been chasing them. Lena felt a chill run through her body. "So they followed you here," Lena murmured, understanding why the shadows were searching so aggressively. "They won't stop until they find you." Sira placed her small glowing hand over her heart, her eyes soft and desperate. She pointed at Lena next, then repeated the motion. It was a simple message, but powerful. "You trust me," Lena whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You chose me to protect you." Sira nodded with a tiny, trembling smile. Her eyes glowed warmly, showing not just fear but deep hope. Lena held her hands gently. "I won't let them take you. I promise." For a moment, the fear around them faded, replaced by a quiet warmth between the two. Sira then reached into the folds of her small dress and pulled out something glowing. It looked like a tiny crystal, shaped like a teardrop. Shining with soft blue light, she placed it carefully into Lena's hand. The moment it touched her skin, Lena felt a pulse, like a heartbeat inside the crystal. "What is this?" Lena asked softly. Sira closed Lena's fingers around the crystal and pressed her own small hand on top of it. Another wave of warmth filled Lena's mind, followed by a feeling of trust, strength, and connection. "It's something important to you," Lena whispered, understanding without full explanation. "Something that keeps you safe." Sira nodded. But then her face darkened with fear again. The crystal flickered, showing dim flashes of light, like a warning. Lena realized something terrible. The hunters were not just close. They were tracking the crystal, tracking Sira's life signal. Sira looked at her with wide, frightened eyes, as if begging her to understand the danger. Lena tightened her grip on the crystal. "It's okay," she said gently. "We'll find a way to hide you, to protect you, no matter what." But deep inside, she knew the truth. The hunters were coming again. And this time, they would stop at nothing. The day started like any normal day for Lena, a 16-year-old girl who lived near a large forest on the edge of her small town. She walked home every afternoon using the same narrow path that cut through tall trees and soft green bushes. It was peaceful, quiet, and familiar to her, and she always enjoyed the cool shade the trees gave her. But on this day, something felt different. Something felt wrong in the air as Lena walked deeper into the forest. She heard a strange sound at first. She thought it was just the wind moving through the branches, but then she stopped walking, because the sound came again. This time it was clearer, softer, and almost like a cry. It sounded like a child calling for help. But the voice was thin, shaking, and carried a strange echo inside it. Lena felt a shiver run down her spine. She looked around but saw nothing except the tall trees standing silently. The forest was usually full of small sounds, birds, insects, leaves, but at that moment everything went quiet. It felt like the whole forest was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Lena tightened her backpack straps and took a few slow steps forward. "Hello?" She called gently, hoping a lost child might answer. But the sound that came back was not an answer. It was the same strange cry again. Only louder, more desperate, more painful. The sound pulled her deeper into the forest, and even though she was scared, she could not ignore it. Her heart beat fast. But her feet kept moving. The sunlight became thinner as the trees grew taller. The path under her feet slowly disappeared, replaced by soft moss and fallen leaves. Lena knew she was leaving the normal walking trail behind. She had never explored this part of the forest before. Her mother always warned her not to go too deep, but now there was no turning back, because the cry sounded like someone needed her. She pushed aside a large bush, and suddenly, the ground under her glowed faintly. A soft blue light spread over the leaves as if the earth itself was shining. Lena froze, her eyes wide with fear and curiosity. "What is happening?" she whispered to herself. Then she heard a tiny voice, a whisper so soft she almost missed it. "Help!" Lena turned quickly, her heart jumping. And that was the moment she saw her, a tiny girl, no bigger than a 5-year-old child, sitting on the ground with her knees pulled to her chest. Her skin glowed softly like moonlight. Her hair shined like silver strings. And her eyes were bright blue, glowing like stars trapped inside them. The little girl looked injured, scared, and completely alone. She trembled with every breath she took. Her small hands were shaking as she tried to wipe her tears. But even her tears glowed softly as they fell on the ground. Lena could not speak for a moment. She did not understand what she was looking at. The child looked almost human. But not fully. She was too bright, too soft, too magical. The tiny girl looked up at Lena and whispered again, "Help. Please." That whisper hit Lena's heart like a spark. She stepped closer slowly, afraid that sudden movement might scare the child. "It's okay," Lena said softly. "I won't hurt you." The little alien child blinked slowly, as if trying to decide whether to trust this human girl. Her blue eyes reflected fear, but also hope. Lena reached out her hand, her fingers shaking. "You're safe with me," she said in a warm voice. For a long moment, nothing happened. The forest stayed silent. The glowing light stayed still. Only the tiny child's breaths moved in the air. Then, slowly, the alien child lifted her small glowing hand and placed it in Lena's. The moment their hands touched, a warm light spread between them. It felt like a connection. Something deep, something ancient, something powerful. Lena felt it inside her heart. This child had chosen her. Not by accident, but because she needed a protector. The tiny girl whispered one word, a name, soft and gentle. "Sira." Lena nodded slowly, smiling with warmth. "I'm Lena." Sira leaned closer, her glowing eyes softening with trust. And right there, in the middle of the forest, a bond formed between a human girl and a lost alien child. A bond that would change their futures forever. Lena held the tiny glowing hand in hers for a long moment, feeling the strange warmth spreading through her skin like gentle fire. Sira's hand was small, soft, and almost weightless, as if she was made of light instead of flesh. The forest around them stayed silent. As if watching them carefully, Lena slowly helped Sira stand up. The little alien child struggled at first, her legs shaking under her. She looked weak and tired, like she had been running or hiding for a long time. Lena placed one steady hand on Sira's back to support her, and Sira leaned against her, trusting her completely. "Are you hurt?" Lena asked softly, not sure if Sira understood human words. Sira didn't answer with speech. Instead, her eyes flickered with a soft blue glow. And suddenly, Lena felt a gentle wave of emotion entering her mind. It wasn't pain exactly, but something close: fear. Exhaustion, loneliness, Lena gasped, realizing Sira was trying to communicate without speaking. The connection felt strange but peaceful. It was like someone whispering feelings instead of words. Sira lowered her head and clutched Lena's clothes gently. "You're safe now," Lena whispered, repeating the words again because she wanted Sira to truly feel them. Sira blinked, her silver eyelashes shining. She looked up at Lena with a mixture of hope and confusion. As if she didn't understand why a human girl would help someone like her, Lena touched Sira's cheek gently, expecting it to feel cold, but it was warm, warmer than a human skin. The glowing markings on Sira's arms pulsed softly, like tiny lights breathing with her heartbeat. "Where did you come from?" Lena asked. But again Sira didn't answer with words. Instead, she pointed a small glowing finger toward the sky. Lena followed her finger and looked upward through the thick trees. The sky was slowly darkening with evening clouds. A pale moon peeked between the branches. Sira's eyes glowed brighter as she pointed. "Up there?" Lena whispered. "The sky? The stars?" Sira nodded slowly, her glowing hair shifting like soft threads of moonlight. Before Lena could ask anything more, Sira suddenly looked around with fear in her eyes. Her tiny body tensed, and she held onto Lena's hand tightly. Lena felt the panic running through Sira's mind, a sudden burst of fear. "Danger and shadows. What's wrong?" Lena asked quickly, looking around the forest. But everything looked calm, no movement, no sound. Then Lena understood. Sira was sensing something far away. Something getting closer. Lena knelt down beside her. "Do you want to leave this place?" Sira nodded again, this time quicker, trembling. She stepped closer, pressing her forehead lightly against Lena's arm as if begging for safety. Lena held her gently. "Come on. I'll take you home for now. You can rest. And then we can figure out what to do." Slowly, they walked toward the path. Sira stayed close to Lena, almost hiding behind her. Every time a branch cracked under their feet, Sira flinched and gripped Lena's hand tighter. To calm her, Lena began talking. Even if Sira didn't understand the words, "My house is not far. It's warm. Mom is at work today, so it's just us. You can rest without anyone disturbing you." Sira listened quietly, watching Lena's face as she spoke. It seemed like the tone of Lena's voice comforted her. When they reached the edge of the forest, Sira paused and looked back, her glowing eyes filled with sadness. Maybe remembering her home, maybe fearing what followed her. Lena squeezed her hand gently. "It's okay. You're with me now," as they walked into the open sunlight. Sira shielded her eyes with her tiny hands. Her skin glowed brighter under the sun. Like she was made of morning light, Lena stared in awe, unable to believe she was helping a real alien child. Someone from another world. When they finally reached Lena's house, Sira stopped before the door. Slowly, she reached out and touched the wooden surface. Her fingers left a faint glowing print that faded after a moment. She looked at Lena again, as if asking permission to enter. Lena smiled softly. "Come in. This is your safe place now." Sira stepped inside, her glowing feet leaving soft blue sparkles on the floor. She looked around with wide eyes, studying every object, the table, the sofa, the cupboards. Everything was strange and new to her. Lena watched her with a warm smile, realizing that this tiny alien child was seeing a human home for the first time. And inside that moment of quiet wonder, Lena felt something deep and strong, the beginning of a bond. A promise, a responsibility. Sira had chosen her, and Lena knew she would protect her, no matter what came next. Lena carefully closed the door behind them, letting Sira step fully into the warm living room. The tiny alien child looked around slowly, her glowing blue eyes wide with curiosity. She reached out to touch a soft blanket on the sofa, then a small plant on the table, and finally the warm lamp glowing in the corner. Every new object made her eyes shine brighter.